Jim Smith, president of 2007 to 2008.
That was like right around the corner.
I know, yeah.
So what was it about Rotary Club that first drew you in?
Well, I had a number of good friends who were in there, and I grew up in a family where service, community service was very important, particularly by my mother. Now, at that particular point, there were no women in Rotary, and there weren't women in Rotary until many years later. But just from what I knew about Rotary and what I loved about Rotary, the whole slogan, the motto, the mantra is service above self, and that's important. It's been important in our family, and it clearly is the glue that holds Rotary together, and that's why we're all attracted to it. So that's what drew me to it. Had people, good folks there, people that I was crazy about, people we represented, and I said, well, you know, if they'll have me, I'll take them. I'll take it because it's a wonderful group.
And so during the period of time while you were president, what would you say you were most proud of?
That nobody died during my year. No Rotarians died. Now you ask every other president who comes up here and see if they can say that.
All right.
So I take some very, very minimal credit for that. But there was one. I'm not kidding about that. I mean, really, no one really did that. So, but as far as being proud, it's tough for a president to create a legacy that's going to outlive them. So you have to be satisfied with doing what you can do as a president. And you have to be satisfied with maybe doing something that'll be good for that year, even though it may not outlive that particular year. And the thing that we did was to create the Service Above Self Award. And I really like that because I think people who serve the public in a very public way, whether it's police or whether it's fire, EMS or whatever it is, I think it's good to have them recognized. But what I thought was particularly good was to have them selected by their own folks, because we said, look, we have an award for you. It's a monetary award as well as a plaque or trophy award, and we want you to pick the best of this year, and you bring them forward. And it was interesting because they gave us just great folks, but also the people who had picked them, the chiefs and the commanders, showed up to celebrate that particular moment for that particular person out of that particular agency. So it was good for that year. There are other awards that recognize that public service and that outstanding public service. But I thought that a Service Above Self award for one of our true public servants was a good thing to do. I was very proud of that.
I'm surprised that didn't exist before.
Well, it didn't in any kind of formal form. We have recognized people before, but as a formal acknowledgement, it had not.
It's okay.
May I stop that? I apologize.
I thought it was probably me.
No, it is I.
Well, and so the last question I have for you about that is, so does that continue on now?
No, that's one of those that, you know, presidents get in and they may get enraptured by something that's going on or something that they want to do. So it's not surprising that something like that doesn't transcend or live beyond or become a legacy award, because we have a number of those, and everybody can't have it. So as I say, I think you do what you can as president. You recognize people in the way that you think people ought to be recognized and in a manner that is, you know, that suits you. And then if it lives on, fine. If it's resurrected at some point in the future, that's fine too. But if you're happy with what you did at that time, I think that's and if the club acknowledged that as a worthy undertaking for that year, I think that's as good as any reasonable president can expect.
Very good. That's what we needed.
Okay.
Okay, Niels Ewing, 86, 87.
Okay, and how do I spell your last name?
Last name?
Yes, how do you spell it?
Ewing.
Very good. So tell me, what drew you to the Rotary Club?
I'm a legacy. My grandfather was one of the founding members. My father was a member, and I attended some meetings with him when I was growing up, high school and college, whenever there was something appropriate. And I grew into it, really. He had someone propose me, and I became a member, which I had wanted to do.
So what is it that the Rotary Club gave you as a businessman, as a person? What did you get out of the Rotary Club?
Contacts with some outstanding people. And I think that's the basis for the whole Rotary Club. It is a vehicle for meeting good people, for associating with good people, and for giving back to the community. Rotary is so active in doing things not only for the community but for the world. And if you're going to be involved, that's what it's all about.
Is there one thing that you remember in particular from your year as president that you want to share?
Yes, there were several things, but the year I was president was the year that Rotary International started to allow women in the Rotary Club. And I must say that we didn't have any women my year, but immediately after I was president, there was a woman member, which I was glad to see.
I bet it wasn't as bad as the men thought.
No, well, I would say it's been very healthy.
Yeah.
And the Rotary Club has changed so much over that period of time, but I'm glad they have, because I don't think we would be around unless it had gone through these changes.
Very good. All right, so that's what we needed from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ewing.
Is that,
That was it.
Joseph, K-U-T-Z, Coots,
And what year were you president?
1991, 1992.
So what was it that drew you to the Rotary Club in the first place?
Well, what really drew me to the Rotary Club in the first place is that I came here to do my residency in surgery, and I was in practice with my senior partner at that time was Dr. Kleinert, who he was a member of Rotary. And my wife kept saying, you know, I'm about to leave you because you don't do a darn thing except medicine, so maybe you get involved in something. So, and Harold, Dr. Kleinert asked me if I would be interested in it. And at that time, you could go in as assistant, as senior, as members, and then junior members. It's a little bit different now, but basically, so the number of people in a particular specialty was limited. So I went in as his additional active, and just got occupied with it and enjoyed it, and got involved with the different committees. And the biggest committee at that time was the program committee. It still is, because the program makes the club as far as a weekly meeting. If to go, that's got to be of interest. And so I was on that, and then I was the chairman of that, and that got me a little bit known, I guess, in the club. And somehow or other, I was pulled up. You know.
So you were pulled up. In the year when you were president, what are you most proud of?
Well, when you're president, you usually go to different meetings around, and I'm sure others have said the same thing, but you go to other meetings of the big clubs around. And Patsy Hart, who was our executive director at that time, and myself went to Philadelphia. And in things that we found by going to the different meetings is how do the clubs stay together, what is good, what is benefit. And at the time, we were in a little bit of a financial problem, which is natural with a lot of clubs. And so we came up with the idea that they had what they called, basically, you paid for your meals ahead of time. And so by paying for your meals ahead of time, the chances are you got more people that come to the meeting. And so we came back and started that, and it worked out pretty well, and it's conceded to do that. And then the one thing we have in Rotary is the four-way test. And so when I was president, I used to call on people, just pick their name out of the bowl and call on them and say, could you repeat the four-way test? And so you get all these guys pulling their notes out and starting to say, okay, and all sweating to see who's going to be called next anyway. So, and there were some different things that we did at the time, and then basically we were really working on the budget and working on things like that, and having the prepaid luncheons for everybody did help us, because a lot of people didn't use them, they'd make up other clubs and things, and so there was always some time left over. And the biggest job that the administrative assistant had at that time, Patsy, was try to determine how many numbers of members are going to be for the dinners and where they're going to be. And it was shortly after that, or before that, I was president. We weren't really tied into the Galt House as much as we are now. We used to go all over the place for the meeting, and the original meetings were always held in the Brown Hotel, but that was discontinued years after, because they had years ago, I would say, or before me anyway. And then the other thing was we kind of started working on, each new member had to go through a training session of what they did, and many times, as for example, Dr. Kleiner, took him 3 years to get through the 5 meetings. So we started working on, could we get him through faster? And it was just, it was because he was busy and didn't have the chance to do it at the time. So when I joined, I decided that I was going to take my Thursday, and that was going to be my day for Civics Days and Rotary. And so I did that, and so I was fortunate I kept most all the meetings and everything. And the other good part about it when you got into Rotary was the international flavor. Because at that time I was doing a lot of traveling for lecturing for medical things. And I could make up, I made up in Japan, I made up in fact, Nana Lampton and I happened to be in Russia, and we were in St. Petersburg. And we were there the day that St. Petersburg allowed their first Rotary meeting to be reestablished. And so we went to St. Petersburg Rotary meeting, the first one that they allowed, the government allowed them to establish. It was pretty much that. So it was kind of interesting. And so, making up all over the world it's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I know so you were sort of known for your great programs too, the speakers you'd have. So, last question is, when you think back on all the speakers that you booked, is there somebody that really stands out?
Well, I don't think I was any more known for that, because it was 2 or 3 year period in which we were trying to get speakers, and we tried to find people who were coming into town for some occasion, and some of them were Rotarians, some of them were not, and we would see if they'd had the time to come by. The good part about it is that we were able to get good speakers without paying them anything.
Yeah, I bet.
That was
Is there like a great big list of Rotarians that you could thumb through and go, oh, I see.
Yeah, somebody that's going to be,
Jack Nicholson.
It's right. Something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway.
Good. All right, well, that's what we needed. Thank you.
Dr. Charles Oberst, O-B-E-R-S-T. I was president from 1989 to 1990.
Okay, very good. So, what drew you to Rotary Club in the first place?
Well, I was kind of forced into it by my business associate. I was a very busy OB doctor in Louisville, and he said, you got to do this. I said, I don't have time. And he said, just trust me, just try it. Well, I did, and it was hard for about 6 months or so, trying to come to the meetings, because I always had someone in labor,
Yeah.
And I've had a couple ladies tell me in the years since then, you missed my delivery because you were at the Rotary meeting, see. And so anyway, that's what did it. And once I got down here, I met the people, and it was a diverse group of people that I normally associated with just my professional people. But this was an opportunity to meet people outside of my specialty, outside of my field. And they were nice people, prominent people in Louisville, fun folks. And that's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah.
They're the newsmakers.
Yeah, well, I bet. We do get kind of stuck in our little enclaves of life. So, the year that you were president, what would you say you're most proud of?
Well, I was kind of famous for one or two things. one, I used to tell a joke. You know, I started the meeting with a joke. Everybody would stand up, and then I would tell a joke. And of course, even before I started telling the joke, I was booed. You know, the crowd would boo, you know, see. But I knew it went over because when I went out in the community, I'd hear the jokes from the wives. The wives would say, well, we got your joke today, you know. And so I know the husbands were going home and telling the wives. So it went over even though I got booed all the time. One of the ladies would sit in the front row, and she would go like that. And I'd say, why are you doing that? She said, that's a sexist joke, you know, see. But she had jokes that were worse than mine. So anyway, so I think telling the joke was one thing. And then the other thing was, well, I did a couple of things. One thing was I started allowing us to bet on the Derby horse. We'd come in there and we'd bet 1, 2, 3, and everybody make a $2 bet. And what they did, that money then went to the Louisville Fund, the Rotary Fund, you know, which we then used it to promote projects in the city, you know, that needed money. And I started that when I was the president, and it's many $1,000s now, you know. See, so I did that. I think I was happy, and that has persisted. One of the few things that has persisted. And then the other thing that I did was there was a candy bar called Kudos, Kudo. And I used to give that on my own. I'd follow the news that week, and if there was somebody I thought that wanted a special praise, I'd give them a candy bar. It was in my kudo to them, you know, see. So I did that.
Good ideas.
So then the other thing that I did was we had a birthday table, and on the birthday I gave them a prize, where the prize was an apple. See, an apple a day kept the doctor away, you know, see. And I learned very interestingly that the price of apples varied with the season. So, you know, in the summertime and the fall, the apple was 25 cents. When you got near Christmas, you know, the apples got a little bigger, but they were $1.25, you know, see. So I learned that, a little bit about economics.
And a little bit about farming.
Right, exactly.
So I'd love to hear one of these jokes. Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, I remember some of them. I tell you, all of them are clean, and that was the hardest part about it, you know, see. And was finding a clean joke, because everybody's got jokes, you know, but all of them are some of them are a little smutty, you know, and it was hard getting a clean joke. Yes, I know I still remember some of the jokes, and the one that was really funny, and it's interesting because the Rotary members would come up to me when I was starting the meeting and said, Charlie, I got one for you. And then and half the time their joke was better than mine, so I'd use their joke, but they were right with it, you know, see. The one that was the funniest, was the oddest, was the one I got from one of the, I can't tell you even what religion he was because you would guess him in a minute. But anyway, he came up and told me a joke, you know, see. And I said, I can't believe you told me that. I said, I can't use that joke. You know, see, it was kind of a little bit off-color joke. No, I didn't use that joke. I've used it otherwise, but I haven't used it with.
Well, tell me a joke that you would have told.
Well, the one, let's see. The one that comes to my mind was the guy was painting the church, and he was running low on paint, so he thinned the paint out, you know, see, with a little bit of water and put it up there, and he finally got the steeple done, and he was stepping back, and he was really proud with how well he did. And about that time, a big cloud comes over, you know, and with the torrent of rain comes down and washes the church off, and the steeple is washed off. And then this mighty voice, the paint is all washed off the steeple. And this mighty voice comes out of the cloud. It says, repaint and thin no more.
I like that. As a person who grew up with a TH speech impediment, I like thin no more.
Okay. So,
Very good.
okay. But the other thing that was fun was that I got, you know, we get to travel. The year before we're president, we go to an international meeting. And every other year it's out of the country. Half the time it's in the United States, the other half it's outside. Well, mine was in Seoul, Korea, and that was an absolute blast. Going over there, looking at that, and seeing all the different Rotary clubs and the people in their native regalia, and it was very impressive. And Seoul was tremendously impressive, and I was fortunate to do that.
And what year were you president?
89, 90.
So they had just had the Olympics in Seoul
Yes.
in '88.
Yes, yes. And that was interesting because the streets were immaculate. And we'd walk down there and they'd have all these older, I can't remember what the name for for the Korean lady, old Korean ladies was, I was in Japan for a couple of years, and they had a name for them. But anyway, these ladies would be walking around the streets with their broom and their little basket and waiting for things to happen so they could use their broom and sweep it up. Like they'd be standing underneath the trees waiting for a leaf to fall so they could go and sweep it up. I mean, the streets were immaculate, at least when we were over there. But it was very well controlled by the government. And so that was impressive.
I bet. That's a nice little perk.
Right.
Very good. All right, that's what we needed from you.
Well, you
These are tough questions.
I
My
know.
first name is Paul, my last name is Gold, and I was president of the Rotary Club of Louisville in 1997, 1998.
All right. So, what was it about the Rotary Club? Why did you decide this is something I want to be a part of?
My sister was a member of the Rotary Club, and she kept telling me it was fun and meet new people and do some nice things in the community, and that I should join. And after working on me for a few years, I went to some meetings, and I said, yeah, she's right. So I joined the Rotary Club of Louisville.
And then you became president.
I did.
And what during that year would you say, what's memorable or what stands out? What are you proud of?
Well, there's a number of things that are memorable and that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the club itself. I'm proud of the people who comprise it and how they dedicate themselves to the
Oh
community.
my gosh, I'm sorry. That's,
Oh, okay.
you know what that is? That's me.
That's your,
That's my daughter who's at math and science camp in Georgetown trying to get a hold of me. So let me just turn, I'm sorry. Should I
that's
have
no
that turned
problem.
off?
I think we have an edit.
We have an edit here.
No problem.
Usually, it's, let me just figure out how to turn her off, because she has her own, like, never to be turned off ring, because, okay, we'll just hope she doesn't call back.
We were talking
Cut number
about,
2, what it is during your presidency, your year, that stands out.
and what I was saying, I was proud of the membership. I'm proud of the people who dedicate themselves to the community. And one of the projects that I undertook as president was the renovation of the president's residence at the University of Louisville. The Swains had left, the Schumachers actually were there, and the house was in great disrepair. So the Rotary Club got together and used all of its resources and Claire Alasia with Bittner's convinced Owsley Frazier that this would be a good idea to help renovate the home. I didn't realize that the home once belonged to his mother, and that's why it's called Amelia's Place. But it is the president's residence, and I think Mr. Frazier thought he was going to put about $100,000 into the project, and $1 million later, the university has a very proud structure, and we had a black tie dinner to celebrate the opening of the home, and I think that will be a legacy that will live for a good amount of time.
I think you're absolutely right. I've been there since, and it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Bittner's can do a nice job.
Well, great for you getting that started, too, realizing that need. That's
His name is Maynard, last name is Stetton, S-T-E-T-T-E-N,
That's what you need. And you're president of Rotary Club.
this year, but it involves 2 years. Our year begins in July 1st to June 30th. So I've been president in 11 and 12.
All right, very good. So why is it that what attracted you to Rotary in the first place?
My attraction to Rotary, I'm a physician, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I was tired of going to places and talking to people about surgery and orthopedics. It's a great place for fellowship, and you can go and meet other people that are not surgeons. And they might ask you questions, and they want free medical advice, but that's better than having to talk with the same people every day about the same subject. And you learn something about the community when you go to Rotary. And the fellowship there is just that way, that you bring out and they bring out in you some things that you do. And you just, like you're asking me questions, you do that at a lunch, and you find out who the new people are and who the old people are. And my God, I never had any idea you did that. That's wonderful, you know?
Or that it even existed.
Right. You did what?
So, so you've been, your presidency is almost finished.
Yes, Finet.
Finished, oui, très bien. What would you say, you're going to remember the most about this year, as far as it might be something that you're most proud of, or just something that happened that will stand out in your.
Well, this year, I have the distinguished honor of the only one ever in Rotary of going through 3 executive directors, 2 assistant directors, or assistants, and 2 bookkeepers. So it's been a tremendous year, and it's been tumultuous in terms of having to hire, fire, and put up with that. It's been almost a chaotic catastrophe in some respects, but it's turned out very well. I think we now have the ship righted, and I think we're on our way.
All right, so you turn that canoe around and it's.
Hopefully, no, the ship was down. We're up now.
All right. So is there anything else aside from that, though? What will you take away from this year as far as, do you stay in Rotary, though? You stay in after.
Of course.
Yeah.
I've been in Rotary for 25 years. So it's not just something that you
Yeah.
come in for 1 year and go out.
Right.
It's not a turnstile. You have to think of Rotary, and this was one of my main things this year. Rotary is composite of 1.2 million people, 200 countries, 34,000 clubs. The population of Rotary 10 years ago was 1.2 million. The population today is 1.2 million. So what happened? We had 1.2 million people come in and 1.2 million people go out. So do you want a Rotary turnstile? No, I didn't. So my objective this year was a retention. How can you make a Rotarian happy? How can you keep him informed? If he's informed, he's involved. If he's involved, he's engaged. And then you have a happy Rotarian. It takes good meals and programs to help, but that doesn't. And if you have retention, then you don't have this turnstile, people coming and going.
So I think that will be another thing that you leave in the wake of your presidency.
One, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very good. All right, that's what we needed from you.
All right,
Piece of cake, huh?
yeah.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Stop that rolling just a second. It was 4 years ago, so what is this, 2008? Yeah, it's 2008.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and get a list anyway. So
Yeah.
if it turns out it wasn't right, I'll put it on there. But
Yeah,
so
my stats 11, 12, Henry was 10, 11, I was 9, no, I'm 9, 10. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just had to think about that a second.
okay, so
All right, okay, my name, do you want to start over again?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's John Bush, and I was president of the Downtown Club 2009, 2010.
Great. And what about Rotary Club attracted you?
Oh, I just love the whole idea of service above self. My father-in-law had been a longtime member of this club as well. And really, I joined because he asked me to, but I found out I'd fallen into a big pot of honey when I joined this club. And it's just so many great people. My father, I also have another family member. My father was president of the Equivalent Club in Lexington when I was very young. And I have a lot of history of Rotary in my family.
And what is it about your year of presidency that you remember most, or you're most proud of?
You know, we just had such great programs that we offered. I mean, we had the chairman of the PGA, and we had a lot of great programs that year. But one of the things I really loved the most was Henry Heiser was the president-elect behind me. And Henry was so great to work with. I didn't know Henry that well before then, but he and I really managed to work very well together so that we could do things that wouldn't just be a one-year thing, for my term, but it would be, some of it was 2-year planning to go into his year. And we did a lot of really good things that I think between the 2 years that might not otherwise have happened.
Can you give me an example of one or two of those?
Well, some of those streamlining the club in terms of some of the club memberships. I mean, not memberships, but in terms of some of the club committees, things like that, and just doing some more kind of longer-term planning. Quite frankly, we also had some issues to deal with. The economy really tanked my year, and so we had some issues like that to deal with, like any other business does. We're not really a business, but you have to run the club like a business. And so we had some issues like that we addressed very well with Henry's help and the help of Greg Braun and others. So, you know, and we just had a lot of fun. Our project that year was Blessings in a Backpack, which I was really proud to be able to support them. That was one of the first years that program was just beginning to get off the ground.
Yeah, that's a great program. So 100 years, Rotary Club has been around for 100 years. Why do you think it has had such lasting power?
Because what it's about is really helping people. And there's no higher calling, I don't think, in terms of being a human being and being here than to help others. And that's really at the essence of Rotary. That's what we do. This club is blessed to be as large as it is, and we help a lot of people locally, we help a lot of people regionally, we help a lot of people nationally, and we help a lot of people internationally, people that we will never ever see. And it's such a blessing to have an opportunity and to have an institution like Rotary where we can do that. And you can do it all right here from Louisville, Kentucky.
That was what we needed.
Okay, great.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Staying power through a century of time.
Well, there are many things, but primarily it is the premier club for the civic and business leaders of our community to come together. And there are various reasons people want to be engaged. One of them is for doing extraordinary community service. Another one is for networking at very high levels. And we're just a great organization that's sustained because we've got wonderful people involved throughout the community doing so many things. Like last weekend was a repair fair, and it was coordinating, taking care of elderly people's homes. And just in that work project to see people with major titles, major salaries, in sweaty t-shirts, taking care of somebody they will never see again, and building houses for Habitat for Humanity. I hope you can edit that out.
Yeah, we can.
And on and on and on. Today we dedicated our $1 million gift to Jefferson Community and Technical College that will forever endow a relationship with Western High School, previously the lowest performing high school in Jefferson County. And it has been inspirational. And to see today this principal get a standing ovation from the 10th largest club out of 34,000 in the world says we're ready to get involved.
So this is the 10th largest club?
In the world, and the United States, and it's all in this country.
Well, so that says something about the Louisville Rotary in itself. I mean, that many people want to be involved with it.
And last year, we took over the volunteer effort in Lexington for the World Equestrian Games and raised money for Rotary International. As volunteers, we were paid, I think, probably minimum wage, but we ended up giving tens of thousands of dollars for our Polio Plus program, which is dedicated to ending polio in the world. There's still 4 third world countries that have polio. And the Gates Foundation, when they gave hundreds of millions of dollars to end it, gave it to Rotary International because it's 200 countries and territories with CEOs and business owners worldwide that can get the job done without the government red tape, interference, and graft. So we were part of that effort using the hundreds of people that were needed every day in Lexington to man the cash registers and other processes as a volunteer for World Equestrian Games. So that's a broad idea of many, many things that we do as a service club.
So the year that you were president, I guess that was during the World Equestrian Games?
Yeah, last year.
Would that be one of the things that stands out the most for you in your memory of that year, or one of the things that you're most proud of, or is there something else?
Well, that was a major thing. I didn't run it. We had Stuart Alexander, who is our 100th president, who takes office next Thursday. I was just part of the push to get the volunteer effort going. But I think the Louisville Rotary Promise Scholarship is our major event for this club in our history. We want to raise $4 million, and that would be $1 million per high school. And we were targeting the lowest performing high schools in Jefferson County. And we heard today from the principal of Western, which has had tremendous dropout rates, very low going to college interest and rates, and he's turned that around already. And I think our focus today, where the 9th graders will be told in about 2 months when they come to school as their first day of high school, that if they can graduate with a 2.5 average, get 90% attendance and good citizenship, that they will have a free college education. So it's a real culture change, a college-going culture throughout the whole school system as we are focused on this 55K, the 55,000 degrees additional by 2020.
That's huge.
The mayor leads that effort. He was there today, and we are very much in step with that.
That's fabulous. Wow, that's a great legacy. That's something else. All right, that's what we needed. Is that good?